began as a night like any other, a quiet evening to myself in a house I'd come to call home. The rain had started gently, tapping on the windows like a soothing rhythm. But within hours, that sound would turn sinister, and I'd find myself questioning whether I'd survive the night. I had just moved into this old, creaky house a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't anything fancy, a single-story home at the edge of a small, sleepy town. The kind of place where nothing exciting ever happens. That night, I'd stayed late at work, trudging home through the pouring rain. By the time I walked through the door, it was almost 9 p.m. The first thing I did was kick off my soaked shoes and curl up on the couch with a blanket and some leftover pizza. The rain outside picked up, pounding against the windows like a persistent drummer. Inside, the house was warm and quiet, the kind of peace I'd been craving after a long day. The evening started off uneventfully. I flipped through TV channels, settling on an old black and white movie, and let the steady rhythm of the rain relax me. The occasional rumble of thunder added a cozy ambience to the night, but then I started to notice little things. At first, it was the clock in the hallway ticking louder than I remembered, each second hammering in my ears. Then, a faint dripping sound joined the rain. I thought I'd left the kitchen faucet running, so I got up to check, but it was bone dry. Shrugging it off, I returned to the couch, only to hear another sound. A faint creak, like a footstep on the hardwood floor. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was the house settling. Old places like this had their quirks, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't long before the night took a turn. As I sat there staring at the flickering screen, I heard a knock at the front door. Not loud, not frantic, just 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I froze. It was late, and I wasn't expecting anyone. My first thought was maybe a neighbor, but I hadn't met anyone yet. Who would be out in this weather? Against my better judgment, I crept toward the door. Through the peephole, I saw nothing, just darkness and rain. Another knock came, softer this time, as if whoever or whatever was on the other side knew I was standing there. I didn't open the door. Instead, I backed away and grabbed my phone, scrolling to the flashlight app. That's when I noticed I had a text message from an unknown number. "I can see you." My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the message, my heart pounding in my chest. It had to be a prank, right? Some sick joke. But how would anyone know where I lived? I didn't have time to dwell on it. A loud crash came from the back of the house. I jumped, nearly dropping my phone. The sound had come from the kitchen. My mind raced. Had someone broken in? I grabbed the closest thing I could find, a heavy candlestick, and tiptoed toward the noise. The kitchen was dark, save for the faint glow of the moon through the rain-streaked window. I flipped on the light, my stomach lurched. The back door was wide open. Rain blew in, pooling on the floor, but there was no sign of anyone. I slammed the door shut, locking it and double-checking the latch. My hands were shaking as I backed out of the kitchen. Another text buzzed through. "You're not alone." That's when the power went out. The house plunged into darkness, the only light coming from the occasional flash of lightning. My phone's screen glowed faintly in my trembling hand. The rain seemed louder now, drumming against the windows like a warning. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and shallow, as I tried to figure out what to do. Then I heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the hallway. I spun around, pointing the flashlight down the corridor. The beam illuminated the empty hall, the shadows dancing on the walls. But the footsteps didn't stop. They were getting closer. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. No answer. The footsteps stopped just outside the room I was in. I could feel tears stinging my eyes as I clutched the candlestick tighter, bracing for whatever was about to come through the doorway. But nothing did. Another text buzzed. "I'm inside." I didn't sleep that night. After calling the police and waiting what felt like an eternity, They arrived and searched the house. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence that anyone had been there. But the officer's face turned grim when he saw the messages on my phone. He asked if I'd been receiving strange calls or if anyone had been following me. I hadn't, at least not that I knew of. The police left, promising to follow up. But here's the thing, they never found anything. And yet, I can't shake the feeling that someone was, and maybe still is, watching me, because every so often, when I'm home alone, I'll hear that same soft knock at the door, and every time I check, there's no one there. But I know better now. If this story sent chills down your spine, you won't want to miss the next one. Click here to hear about another horrifying encounter, a true story about a mysterious figure who only appears when you're completely alone. Don't watch it alone, if you dare.